Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming, especially our outside visitors. Welcome to the League. I know I've seen many of you here, and I will see you probably here tomorrow night because we run Club 1111 that provides a social outlet for people with disabilities that they might not otherwise have a chance to do. The second Saturday every month, so tomorrow night, but tomorrow's sold out, so don't come tomorrow if you haven't gotten your tickets. But I run the League for People with Disabilities the last 17 years. We've been around for 98 years, and we provide programs to people with all types of disabilities, like those individuals you saw there. I don't know if we had anybody as talented as the young man who composed on the piano, but we run medical day programs, day rehabilitation programs. We have a wellness center and a pool here, the gym and a pool. We have a program for people with multiple sclerosis, like the last person that we just saw, helping people get jobs. But I'm here today to moderate this group, and really I'm hoping that we can have a good discussion about what we just saw and what touched you in each. There's so much in there, so what touched each of you? So let me kick this off. Let me first say, for those who need it, I'm about 6 feet tall, white man, wearing a blue clothing, shirt and pants. So let's start. Let me start with Janice Jackson to first talk. Let's get a little bit more background. What is WEAN and what does WEAN do?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Wasn't that powerful? Yeah. Weren't those series powerful? Yeah. And it's just an honor to be asked to be a part.
Good.
My mic's not on?
Your mic, it's two different things.
Oh, okay. To be a part of the series and to just be a part of the discussion. Again, my name is Janice Jackson. I am the director of Women Embracing Abilities Now, which is a nonprofit organization that mentors women and young ladies with disabilities. I'm an African-American woman. I have on a black dress, a black hat, animal print earrings, an animal print on the side of my hat. But yes, this has been an eye-opening experience for me. I've been in the disability community 40 years, and I've never got the opportunity to hear or to get to know these renaissance that we saw today. So thank you for having me.
Just give you a little bit more background about Candace Gray. You want to tell us about your organization and what you all do?
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you all today. My name is Candace Gray. I am a black woman. I have on a green top and a black and white plaid skirt. I am a director of education and outreach with the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. So the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights is the agency that enforces discrimination laws, Title 19 and Title 20 laws. So it is illegal to discriminate against individuals in specific protected classes in employment, housing, public accommodations, health services, state contracts, and commercial property leasing. The unit that I supervise is the Education and Outreach Unit, so we ensure that we provide training, seminars, symposiums, workshops to every individual in the state of Maryland to increase awareness of civil rights laws and issues. And it's exciting to be here because we actually have facilitated trainings here at the League for Disabilities as well. So it's great to be here again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Candace. And Bong Del Rosario, I'm going to have to talk, but I know he's mostly known for being a former employee of the League, but let's talk about what you're here representing.
How you guys doing? I'm Bong Del Rosario again. I'm with the Maryland Department of Disabilities. I serve as the Director of Transportation Policy for the Department of Disabilities. Our department is really the only department in the United States that deals with legislation as far as cross disabilities are concerned, and that is directly underneath the governor's office. So anything disability related, no matter what the disability is, our department would really handle that as far as legislation and bills and laws are concerned. We also house 3 other departments, the telecommunications department, like relay services, and also our assistive technology department, such as being able to get adaptive equipment for driving, even loans for adaptive vehicles as well.
Thank you, Bong. And Bong, you want to describe yourself?
So I'm sorry, I am a Filipino male with a short haircut. I wear glasses, black framed, and I am in a power wheelchair.
Thank you. So let me go back to my original question, which was what struck you the most? I know Janice said she didn't even know those stories, which were 3 amazing stories, and there's a couple more online when you get a chance to see those. But what particularly stood out to any of you? Go ahead, Bob.
Well, for me, it was Tia, the one that had the baby. Her diagnosis was arthrogryposis, and actually I have arthrogryposis as well. So watching her take care of her children and just fighting for her rights and their rights brought back a lot of memories for me when I had my son 26 years ago. So that really touched me, and it was really cool to see someone else with arthrogryposis go through the same struggles that I had went through when my son was born.
And were there people who would said to you that you can't be a father because how are you going to do that?
So to be honest with you, I think because of her, a lot of things had changed, which I'm very grateful for. When I was raising my son, of course, there were people that would like, well, you can't pick him up, you can't feed him, you can't change him. Obviously I proved all of them wrong, but it wasn't as, the legal system did not have to get involved in it like they did back in the day when she was giving birth, which again, I'm very thankful for her and others after her to help pave the way.
All right. Awesome answer. All right, so go ahead.
Yes, what stood out to me was Brad Lomax's story, the individual that was a part of the Black Panther Party. It stood out to me because Brad Lomax had multiple sclerosis, and he fought for individuals with disabilities to live in communities and have equal rights as other individuals to, live in their own community as opposed to being institutionalized, because that's what society said at one point in time, that individuals with disabilities should be institutionalized. But I connect with that because my late grandmother had multiple sclerosis and she was blind. And that was my best friend. Grandma was my best friend. But Grandma was able to have rights that helped her with her housing. She lived around the corner from me. I would walk to her house every day. And we were both able to live in the same neighborhood and have the same access. So that stood out to me because I just could not imagine if my grandmother with multiple sclerosis didn't have access as I did, even though, she had a disability and I may not have had a visible disability. But that story really stood out to me because it's very important. Even my 30-year-old sister currently has multiple sclerosis. She's 30 with 3 kids, and she's a medical assistant and able to work, and again, just to be provided with equitable resources so that she is not discriminated against because of a disability. So Brad Lomax's story really connected with me because of my family and what we have experienced. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Candace. Janice, can you hold it?
Yes. Well, where do I start? As I told David, when I watched these 3 episodes, I had such a spectrum of emotions. I was in my house, and I tell you, I cried, I was angry, I felt so misinformed, and just so many emotions. And I think the emotions came from, even though their stories were in the 1800s and the 60s and 70s, we experience some of the same things today. Even with the Americans with Disabilities Act, we still have the fight and struggle. The ADA gave us leverage, and we've come a long way. But the attitudinal barriers, which we saw in each one of these episodes, we are still experiencing. The same attitudes, the same I can't, you can't. And that's what made me really sad, because the movement, the independent living movement, I never knew about Mr. Lomax. And I am heavily involved in the independent living community. I actually am the president of one of the independent centers living in in Maryland. Never knew of this man who paved the way, not only for our community but for African Americans. And to see the struggle then and to still see the struggle that a lot of us still face, it really hurts my heart. But as we saw these fighters, these courageous people who are renegades, they chose to put their life aside for the lives of others. And I tell you, I just, like I said, had so many mixed emotions when I watched these series.
I would like to add on to that too. Thank you so much for sharing, Miss Janice. Can I call you Miss Janice?
Sure you can.
All right.
I'm everybody's auntie, like you said.
So I just wanted to build on that briefly. Just having equitable resources regarding housing for individuals with disability is so important. You know, it is illegal to discriminate against individuals with disability regarding fair housing. And even with that being stated, sometimes individuals with disabilities may receive source of income from the government. And there are certain landlords or, you know, individuals that are renters, and they may discriminate against individuals because of source of income or disability. So conversations like this are so important so that everyone can know that it is illegal to discriminate because of a disability and also source of income, as long as it is a legal source of income. So it's just so important for us to continue these conversations and really bring awareness to our laws and rights, just to reiterate for everyone.
And just because it's illegal doesn't mean it doesn't happen anymore.
Exactly.
Right? That we wouldn't have racial issues if the Civil Rights Act had fixed everything. Yeah. So I want to open this up and hear from some others. Who was touched particularly by what they saw today in these vignettes? Go ahead, Erica.
I was touched about awareness, because I was thinking about doing awareness and validation for, you know, the medical abuse, and stuff like that. And I was ready to work on it. One day, I might be out in the community real soon and competing with the Mrs. Wheelchair Maryland.
There you go. We'll be voting for you.
Yeah. So, watch out for me. I'm coming next.
Erica Conway right here. when you see her ballot show up. Others who would like to say something about what they saw today. Here we go. Young man in red. Let me hold it for you. Go ahead. Got it?
My name is Michael Smith.
We'll got to talk to the end of it, right there.
My name is Michael Smith, and I love showing everybody about everybody that I love, every previous kid that we see or do on the World Talk show, and we like to do one thing about this show. Well, we were.
He's talking about what he likes to do on a laptop.
Gotcha.
What did you want to say about today, the screening today, about the Renegades, the 3 people that we learned about today, about Celestine, about Lomax, and what did you want to learn about Thomas Wiggins? What did you want to learn? Talk about that.
Yes, we wanted to say about the screen that we saw today, everybody, about,
What did you think of it?
and that wasn't too bad at all.
That wasn't too bad at all. Thank you. So you enjoyed it?
Yes.
Good, very good. Other comments? You gonna say something? All right. Let's hear it, Antonio.
Oh, I work on my champagne art, my champagne art today. So I'm gonna probably not take the shit to shut it. I'm gonna take my all the doctor, lawyer, I need time for the champagne. So I'm playing on a radio. On radio is like that. That is the Baltimore County Pleasant City. When I'm playing Shannon Auburn cut the day. So I'm playing I work with the champagne all day. I work with my company on the radio. My grandfather, I want to take my shin type. Oh yeah,
Okay.
right there. But that's my first day right there.
Okay, I know. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Antonio.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
I'm Desmond Gale, Therapeutic Recreation Manager here at the League for People with Disabilities Medical Day Program. Thomas Wiggins' story definitely hit me. I did music for 20 years of my life. I've been here at the League for 17 years, been an advocate for civil rights for 25 years. So that really, really touched me. I mean, all the videos touched me, but just seeing what he had to go through, that he was so talented and he didn't even have the right to his own music, the right to be able to do what he wanted to do, didn't have the right to his own funds, how they basically took advantage of him. I mean, it just shows that, you know, our history here is not what is always taught to us. And even now, we are still fighting for those things. And a lot of times people think that, you know, we live in a country that's perfect, that is great, that is, you know, so many different things. But a lot of times we don't hear about, you know, the struggles of people, especially marginalized people, especially people with disabilities, people of minorities and women and so on and so forth. It's just sad to see that we're still fighting so hard for it, and it's something that should have already been promised to us to begin with. So, I mean, each one of these videos have touched me, so I definitely want to say that we still got some fighting to do, but I'm glad we're able to do events like this where we can actually learn about these individuals that a lot of us we didn't even know about. And so that's important for us to really be able to get and understand and learn about. So.
Thank you, Desmond. Really good.
David, I have a comment.
Yes. Janice?
Yes, Desmond brought up a real important issue. A lot of time when people look at our community, they just see our disabilities, but they don't see the intersectionality of each one of us. We come with so many other identities. As a person with a disability, my identity, I'm also a woman. I'm also a black woman. So all of these identities intersect. And a lot of times people try to deal with just one part of who we are. But our disability does not define who we are. And sometimes people get the word equality and equity, they intertwine them, but they're so different. You know, we want to be treated equal, but equity is so different. Because of our different identities, each one of those has different needs. Each one of our identities have different circumstances. And if you don't deal with each one of them, you're not dealing with the whole person. So, you know, and I tell everyone this, your disability does not define who you are. Society may, but it doesn't. And as we saw today, physical limitations are just a little part of what we can do.
Good, thank you. Candace, I wanted to ask you about the kind of intersection between, we're talking a lot about disabilities, but you work a lot in civil rights, and I always felt like disabilities is a civil right, but I think there's kind of separate definitions between civil rights and disability rights. So I didn't know if you can speak to that.
Yes, so thank you for that question. Disability rights and civil rights do go hand in hand. Again, it is illegal to discriminate against individuals with disabilities in Maryland Commission on Civil Rights jurisdictions in employment, housing, public accommodations, state contracts, health services, and commercial property leasing. I say that because those are the jurisdictions of the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, and disability is one of the protected classes. So they do go hand in hand and they do intersect because civil rights are human rights. You know, so outside of what that right is, whether the protected class is disability or race or gender, it's still a human right. So it is so important for us to take that into consideration, you know, just of the human rights. And something that Ms. Janice said made me think about how a lot of the situations and barriers that we experience in our community, such as disability or, again, race, gender, are systemic. You know, a lot of these barriers were put in place from the original Constitution, which is a whole nother story. But, you know, that Constitution and the origin of that, of America and where it started, already created a barrier for us. And I say us being in a marginalized communities as a Black woman as well. So again, civil rights and disability rights go hand in hand because they are part of human rights. And it is imperative, even representing the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, to ensure that everyone knows that we advocate for human rights as well.
Hang on to that, Mike. I want to ask Bong a question, just specific about transportation. I was not aware till I think I started working here that the public bus system, at least in Baltimore, I think they all accommodate wheelchairs, that you can pull up and you can get on them, and you don't have to be on mobility. I was not aware of that as a person who doesn't use a wheelchair. But I'm sure it was not always that way, and it's due to the ADA and all that things like that are happening. But I don't know if you can talk about other improvements that have occurred over the last 20 years in the transportation realm, which is something I can tell you that transportation is so important to people who can't transport themselves, who are relying on a public system.
Yeah, you're right, David. At least probably somewhere between the 80s and 90s, not all of the public transportation buses that you see on the roads were all accessible. As a matter of fact, you would actually have to call them at the 539-5000 number and request that particular bus would be accessible, handicap accessible. But since the 2000s and going till now, every single bus that is out there does have wheelchair accessibility, does have the feature of the ramp and the tie downs if you need to tie down the wheelchair as well. So it is quite possible if you're able to get to a bus stop and you do have a physical disability that you are able to ride the public transportation. And as far as advancements are concerned, there are so many different advancements. Here in Maryland, one of the biggest advancements that have come are accessible shared ride services. Unfortunately, it's not available everywhere in Maryland, but there are portions of Maryland that do offer shared ride services. For example, Uber, wheelchair accessible vehicles, they are available in the Montgomery, Prince George's County, and Washington, D.C. area, and even Alexandria, Virginia. So hopefully, through legislation within the next couple of years or so, we can get that into the Baltimore metro area, the Howard County area, and the other surrounding counties like Frederick County, Garrett County, Allegheny.
Any comments from the audience? Chandra?
Alrighty, I have a question. So I was shocked to see that disability is a right to take somebody's child, and I can't remember the specific statistics, but that raises an important question. How do we ensure that systems like child welfare understand and respect the abilities of parents with disabilities? And what changes need to be made in policies to better support these families?
That's a good question. I'll answer that question to the best of my ability because child welfare is not under the jurisdiction of the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. However, we do collaborate with partnering agencies a lot to bring awareness to situations such as what you're saying. I do know that when it comes to organizations violating one's rights, one of the main components is for them to be educated. So the staff that work at these facilities and the CEOs and all the employers need to be educated so that they know, I'm not able to do this, or I'm violating someone's civil rights. So, and not to be biased because I'm in education and outreach, but education is so important. A lot of individuals, our rights are violated because people don't know what the rights are and that they're violating them. And sometimes if you don't know your own rights, you can't advocate for yourself. So my response is just ensuring that bringing awareness and education of what the civil rights are to these facilities is what's important, and also holding councilmen and women and senators and delegates accountable. A lot of individuals in different counties have complaints or experience discrimination, but they aren't holding the individuals in their governments accountable. So you have to advocate for yourself and research on your own. A lot of times people are waiting for the answer. They're waiting for the door to be open, but sometimes you have to open that door. We've all seen this video today, so are we going to be quiet or are we going to take action? You know, are we going to spread the news and share the word, you know, when we have family members visit or when we're out in public places? So it's important for us to research, find the education and share it, and then also hold our government officials accountable. And it's not easy, you know, legislation doesn't change immediately, but it is possible.
Janice says thing while she's handing it over. I was shocked to see the statistic up there that 47 states, it's still okay to take a parent, to take a child away from a parent, but just because they have a disability.
Wow. So. Without even recognizing that mental capacity is important. They didn't even see that regardless of, physical appearance or what it may be, that, just having the motivation to do something in the mental capacity outweighs the physical limitations.
And unfortunately, a lot of our systems are broke. A lot of our systems, and as the series showed, they're systemic. They've been around, and to make a change is so hard. I mean, we see that with the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's been over 30 years, and we are fighting, I mean, really fighting. Not only transportation, housing, employment, everything is a struggle. They had a struggle back there, we have a struggle here, and the fight is real. And, I don't want to get started, but, our ADA is our civil rights bill. But as we know, you can put a bill into place, but to implement those bills is so hard. Just like attitudes. You can build a curb cut, but you can't change people's attitudes. And the attitudinal barriers that our community faces, they were back then, They're now, and as a community, as you said, Ken, if we don't speak up, if we're not advocates for our community, it'll just be history repeating itself. And that's why I dedicated my life as Mr. Womack to breaking down these barriers, and each one can reach one. And as I said before, I've been in this 40 years, and my program mentors, and that's just to educate the next woman and the next person about their voice. If you don't have a voice, we're your voice, and that's why MPT, this series was so life-changing to me, and I hope it gets out there and you guys continue to educate, our community and others about living with disabilities.
I think self-advocacy is so important, and to those of us without disabilities, seeing that is just so impactful. It's impactful. You're seeing it as a person with disabilities. I'm seeing it as a person without disabilities, and I'm just floored by what these individuals have accomplished and the role models they are. And I only ever heard until more recently negative stories about Black Panthers. You never hear the positive stories about Black Panthers, and that was amazing. And I knew that was going on, but there was never discussion of it. It'd be a little side note, but that was probably, if I were a Black Panther back then, that was probably the main thing. Wasn't the protest, was more the helping the community.
Absolutely.
But that's not the image. It's kind of
The propaganda.
right.
Yes.
Right. Were you gonna say something again?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. So I have mostly heard good things about how the Black Panther movement helped the community. So when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, military. So that was just kind of opposite of what I've always learned and been taught. However, Ms. Janice mentioned how, we can have a law in place, but that doesn't mean a change will happen immediately. And I think that is so important because a lot of organizations mention diversity, equity, and inclusion to sound like they're doing the part, but we really need to have substantive changes. So it's important that as we all in this room advocate, that we have data to show the changes that are being made. At the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, our building is downtown Baltimore City, and there's a program for individuals with disabilities to be hired and work. So we see the data. We have these changes that we are seeing being implemented. So it's so important just for us to take action, because we can have these conversations over and over. Thank you for being here today. We can have these conversations over and over without change, and then it becomes pointless. So it's important for us to, truly take action.
Thank you. We're running short on time, so I didn't know if anybody wants to make any final comments. Anybody want to be on TV? Say something? Can we say something? Go ahead, speak right into it.
I was just wondering, I guess, for your kind of general perspectives on representation within media and how important, I guess, like the storytelling aspect kind of mirrors the policy aspect for disability inclusion, because at least for me, I think it wasn't until college that I had to actively seek out disability history, and still a lot of it, I think, was with the perspective of showing exceptional stories and trying to humanize by saying okay, people with disabilities can also be amazing artists, and they can be, really valuable in the sense of a monetary part of society, but then missing out on stories of just actual lives and that kind of humanizing aspect. I think, at least for Maryland Public TV, not having to seek out these stories was really great, and having it right in my inbox, but still not knowing, I guess, where to access those stories that are directed by the community. That was a little all over the place.
Well, I'll share that. Come here any day, and you'll meet a couple hundred amazing individuals that are just living their lives in many, many different ways. Come here tomorrow night. There'll be 500 people here having an amazing time, just getting their groove on. because it's just not the same going to a nightclub and being in the minority and people looking at you. You're in a wheelchair and you're in a nightclub, or you've got Parkinson's and you're moving around unusually. That look at that person over here. There's no judgment. Everybody's, including myself, everybody's got something wrong with them. But they're all having it here for one purpose: have a good time and socialize and meet other people. But anytime in the daytime here, through Medical Day, or people having jobs, trying to get jobs, we've got stories for you. Go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation, first of all. You've educated and empowered us. What would you suggest that we could do to educate and empower people we know out in the community?
I would like to answer that. I would like to address the statement that was just made about representation. I think that is a valid point you make, because even at the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, we have trainings around disability and awareness, LGBTQIA, housing discrimination, and a lot of individuals request, for example, with our LGBTQIA trainings, individuals are like, hey, I would love to be trained by someone who is in the community. And we do have a trans staff person that is open to facilitating trainings with us when we do facilitate those trainings. So that representation is important. Even during our galas, it's important for us to have representation of all of our protected classes. And throughout our times of collaborating with organizations, we make sure we collaborate with each protected class, because that representation is important. So I did want to acknowledge that. To your question, thank you for your question. I'll add to that also. Regarding just informing other individuals, I am in charge of social media at work, so I'm always saying like, hey, if everyone here could even make a video and post it, put it on YouTube, or even having events where you're inviting outside resources, such as how we're doing today. David just invited us for the night event tomorrow night, woo woo. So I think that is very important. Just even if there's a newsletter that can be sent out, just different forms of communication. I know with MCCR, we're on social media. We also send out packages to our teammates and our partners in Western Maryland, Southern Maryland, the Eastern Shore. So just communicating, via social media and also mailing out information, I think is a great start.
And also, Terry, just living and sharing our lived experiences. We can tell our story better than anyone, so that's why empowering people with disabilities to exercise their voice, let people know, because if we don't tell them and we don't educate them and they get it secondhand, they're not getting the truth. So that's why, and I keep harping on mentoring, and training people to exercise their voice and tell their lived experience and live in their truth. In our group, Terry's in my organization, our women are proud to have disabilities because they don't define who we are as women. So live in your truth.
Janice, I'm going to add, and let Bong make a final comment, but one of the things is hire people with disabilities. Having people with disabilities on your workforce normalizes disabilities. It's not Bong with a because Bong was a former employee here, Bong with a disability who's in HR. No, it's go to Bong, he's going to get you the employment application and do whatever he did. We've got many people with disabilities who work here. And you can't tell, are they working here or are they a participant here, because everybody's having so much fun.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. But also going back to what you had mentioned about representation. So, fun fact, I've been disabled my whole entire life. Prior to 2016, I really wasn't involved in the disability community. However, I did a couple of documentaries for the University of Maryland that had a section called Video Press. And it started in the early 90s. And one of the documentaries that I did, all of the documentaries that I've done actually have aired on MPT. But one of the documentaries that I did, it followed me from elementary school all the way up through high school. Now, again, at this time, I'm not a part of the disability community, but I am disabled. So after that was done, it got nationwide recognition, world recognition, and just to know that that documentary, you know, touched so many people's lives, and actually, it's a part of the college and university's occupational and physical therapy curriculum now throughout the country. So just to know that I had that type of impact to people in general, you know, to help educate people in general about people with disabilities was mind-blowing to me when I finally got into the disability community and I started working in the disability communities. So back then, I didn't even think about that. You know, so, you know, just doing everyday normal things is definitely representation, you know, that you don't even think about.
That's a great way to close out. Thank you, Bong. So MPT, I don't know if you have to pay a Screen Actors Guild, but you know he's one of our actors here. He was waiting until the end there to slip that in. But I want to thank everybody who came today. I thought it was an interesting discussion. Congratulations to MPT for doing this Renegades, because it's been fantastic. And please watch the two that you didn't see today. I can't recall what they were, but they're on mpt.org probably. So, thank you all.